No, it's an ethnic cleansing. Those want to kill every and each Palestinian and Arab who is fighting to be free and who is fighting to keep his house and to live in his house normally. So they destroyed around 530 villages. I'm just talking about the time of Nakba. These numbers are the numbers in 1948. But now, since the Nakba, it has already 72 years, they destroyed more than 530 villages and cities and killed at that time, they killed about 15,000 Palestinians in a series. Actually, it's a massacre, that's it, including more than 70 massacres, as we mentioned. Today, we have around 7.98 million Palestinian refugees and internally displaced persons who have not been able to return to their original homes and villages. So since 1948, those who were forced to leave Palestine, they are not able, under the law, imagine, to go back to their homeland. I am one of those. My grandpa left Palestine in 1948, so he was a refugee. He was 6 years old. He tried, actually, my grandpa's father tried to go to Syria. A lot of Palestinians from those who went to Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan, they tried to go back to Palestine, but they were killed directly at the borders. Directly, although they were unarmed people, normally trying their best or dreaming that maybe this was just like that year, and then I can go back to my home. As they mentioned, some Israeli soldiers were actually telling the people, we are just doing it for you, leave the country now or you will be killed and then you can come back to it. This was all a lie. They couldn't come back. Those who tried to pass the borders were killed directly, and those who were refugees, as I mentioned, because of the Israeli displacements, like violence, they couldn't go back to Palestine, and they are not allowed. I'm the third generation of Palestinian refugees family. I cannot go back to Palestine. I cannot travel normally to anywhere, although I have the Palestinian passport. So as we mentioned, that we have now around 7 million Palestinians are refugees. And some, like 6.14 million of those refugees beyond the borders, some of them were also refugees in Palestine themselves. Like they were forced to leave their house in one city in Palestine and to move to another cities where Israel was taking control until now, which is the borders of 1967, which is almost 60% of the Palestinian land. So after the UN resolution, the resolution that it's 181, a UN resolution that said that Israel has the right, or it has the country between the borders of 1967, which has almost 60 of the Palestinian land, excluding the West Bank and the Gaza. So Israel, since that day, although they are under like the law that Palestinian people didn't accept the resolution from UN, that they put this solution that Israeli only accepted and they work over it, although the Palestinian people who were living there peacefully didn't accept it, they didn't care, and they move on with it. Israel actually didn't, or like Israel occupation, didn't stop at that time. Nakba for us, catastrophe for us, is since 1948, since 20 years until now, we are living catastrophe. Every day there is Nakba for some Palestinian people. Every day, although there was a resolution, although there was some laws that told the Israel occupation that we are not allowed to have control over the West Bank and over the Gaza, although they are until now doing this without any like punishment, or without anyone asking them why you are not following the international law. Since 1948 until now, Israel are killing people, are destroying villages, they come to West Bank and they ask Palestinian, you have two options. It's either you destroy your house, all right, and then you will give us this land, or we will destroy your house and you will pay us. Imagine, you will pay us the amount of the destroyment. So until now, we're living this catastrophe. Although Israel, under international law, it's already have 60% of the Palestinian land, but it's not enough for them. They want the whole land. They want to kill or to have control over the whole Palestinian people. So until now, we as Palestinian, we said that we are living Nakba until now. Me as a refugee, I'm living Nakba until now. I'm living Nakba because I cannot go back to my country. I cannot have my normal rights as a human being because I have no country to go to. Israel will not allow me. The Zionist movement will not allow me to go back to my country. They want us to stay refugees, or they want us to, although if they want us to live under the Israeli control or the Israeli state, they don't give the Palestinian people who were forced to live under the Israeli state their normal rights. They don't give them their normal rights at all. Israel is not, we cannot say is a normal country or something like this. No, it's a Zionism movement, is a racist movement, is a occupation who want to ethnic cleansing all Palestinian and Arabs in the Palestinian homeland. So in brief, this is actually the history of Palestine. I hope that, because I re-mention it or I repeat it a lot, that to understand the roots of the Nakba or of the catastrophe in 1948 was the Balfour Declaration, which is a British man who promised that he will have a state, or it's legal, or it's a must to have a state or a nation for Jewish only on the Palestinian land. So since 1948, Israel took almost 60 of the Palestinian land and destroyed around 530 villages and committed a lot of crimes. They killed people, children, women, those who are unarmed, who are fighting in a very peaceful way to just stay in their houses. They were forced to leave Palestine to go to nearby countries or not to stay. They don't actually care where you will go. It's just the point that you are not allowed to stay in this country, and we have to control all of it. So in short, this is the history. And since that time, Palestinians were actually resisting in different ways. Some of them, they were resisting by staying at their houses, by saying that we don't care, you can do whatever you want, but we are going to stay here because you have no right to kill us. You have no right to tell us to go out from our houses. To make it officially, we have something called intifada, which is somehow we can translate it to the uprising. We have around 3 to 4 intifadas for uprising, officially uprising. First one was in 1987. We called it the rocket intifada, the intifada of the uprising of rockets. Palestinian people, they used to face a military, they used to face army, they used to face people with weapons, with real weapons, with only rockets, to tell the world that we are fighting to live peacefully, that we are fighting to have our normal rights in our country. To make things clear here, Palestinian people are not fighting Jewish. No, Palestinian people are only fighting the Zionists. Palestinian people are only fighting those who want to kill them without any specific reason. Palestinian people are fighting or are resisting those who want to kill them just because they are living in this land that they claim is their own land. So this was the first intifada in 1987, and then we had the second intifada in 2000, and then the third intifada in 2015. All intifadas or all uprising were for the same reasons. Were for telling others and for Palestinians that we are fighting for our rights. We are resisting because you are not allowed to tell us. You are not allowed to telling us go from this country. You are not allowed to destroy our mosques, our homes, our land without any specific reason. It's all because of this Balfour Declaration, who claims that you have the right to build your own nation on this homeland, although it has people. So we are not fighting a human being. We are fighting an ethnic cleansing group, an ethnic cleansing movement. We are fighting Zionists. We are resisting to have our human rights on our land, as any person on this world will fight for his human rights. I believe this is enough to know the idea of the occupation, when it started, and how did Palestinian people deal with it, and to know that we are still facing this occupation, we are still facing Zionists, and we need support. We are trying our best. Palestinian people are trying their best, but of course they need support. They need people to understand the real issue. They need people to understand what is Israel actually doing in the country. It's not a normal state. It's not a normal government. They want to kill Palestinians, as I mentioned. They want to have control over everyone, and they will not give Arabs and Palestinians their normal rights. Anything to add?
Okay, so let's proceed with the next speaker. Thank you, Shifa. We'll come back at you during the Q&A session, inshallah.
All right.
So a resident of Sheikh Jarrah sent us a video explaining her situation. She is from one of the families that are supposed to be evicted by August of this year. She wanted to be kept anonymous to protect herself and her family, so we have altered her voice to ensure her safety. I'll start playing the video now.
Hello everybody, I am a member of one of the families who is under the threat of being forcibly evicted or forcibly displaced from the eastern Jerusalem neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah. My family is under the threat of a forcible displacement in August of this year, in the coming couple months. And so I will be talking a little bit about the history of our neighborhood, and what I will also be talking about what escalated all of the events that happened lately in our area. So first of all, I would like to say or mention that the houses or the units that are in our neighborhood are a total of 28 units that were given to families who were refugees from the year 1948 from Nakba.
إذ قال لأبيه ويقول الإنسان أإذا ما مت لسوف أخرج حيا أولا يذكر الإنسان أنا خلقناه من قبل ولم يك شيئا فوربك لنحشرنهم والشياطين ثم لنحضرنهم حول جهنم جثيا ثم لننزعن من كل شيعة أيهم أشد على الرحمن عتيا ثم لنحن أعلم بالذين هم أولى بها صليا وإن منكم إلا واردها كان على ربك حتما مقضيا ثم ننجي الذين اتقوا ونذر الظالمين فيها جثيا وإذا تتلى عليهم آياتنا بينات قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أي الفريقين خير مقاما وأحسن نديا وكم أهلكنا قبلهم من قرن هم أحسن أثاثا ورئيا قل من كان في الضلالة فليمدد له الرحمن مدا حتى إذا رأوا ما يوعدون إما العذاب وإما الساعة فسيعلمون من هو شر مكانا وأضعف جندا ويزيد الله الذين اهتدوا هدى والباقيات الصالحات خير عند ربك ثوابا وخير مردا أفرأيت الذي كفر بآياتنا وقال لأوتين مالا وولدا أطلع الغيب أم اتخذ عند الرحمن عهدا كلا سنكتب ما يقول ونمد له من العذاب مدا ونرثه ما يقول ويأتينا فردا واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة ليكونوا لهم عزا كلا سيكفرون بعبادتهم ويكونون عليهم ضدا ألم تر أنا أرسلنا الشياطين على الكافرين تؤزهم أزا فلا تعجل عليهم إنما نعد لهم عدا يوم إلى الرحمن وفدا ونسوق المجرمين إلى جهنم وردا لا يملكون الشفاعة إلا من اتخذ عند الرحمن عهدا وقالوا اتخذ الرحمن ولدا لقد جئتم شيئا إدا تكاد السماوات يتفطرن منه وتنشق الأرض وتخر الجبال هدا أن دعوا للرحمن ولدا وما ينبغي للرحمن أن يتخذ ولدا إن كل من في السماوات والأرض إلا آتي الرحمن عبدا لقد أحصاهم وعدهم عدا وكلهم آتيه يوم القيامة فردا. الله أكبر. والقلم وما يسطرون ما أنت بنعمة ربك بمجنون وإن لك لأجرا غير ممنون وإنك لعلى خلق عظيم فستبصر ويبصرون بأيكم المفتون إن ربك هو أعلم بمن ضل عن سبيله وهو أعلم بالمهتدين فلا تطع المكذبين ودوا لو تدهن فيدهنون ولا تطع كل حلاف مهين هماز مشاء بنميم مناع للخير معتد أثيم عتل بعد ذلك زنيم أن كان ذا مال وبنين إذا تتلى عليه آياتنا قال أساطير الأولين سنسمه على الخرطوم أقسموا ليصرمنها مصبحين ولا يستثنون فطاف عليها طائف من ربك وهم نائمون فأصبحت كالصريم فتنادوا مصبحين أن اغدوا على حرث
and 9. So then, back then, we were young. We were young students, young kids. We were around most of us, we were 14 and 13 years old. So we decided that this time, after 11 years, it won't be the same. We are old enough and we are going to support our neighbors and will help them with our own way of defense, which is only spreading and
recording in progress.
That's the first point I wanted to highlight on, that we did it all alone as a young adults. No one supported us from any political side or party. The second point I have to speak about is that the neighborhood is still closed. This is the day 20 and the neighborhood is closed. As she said, people are not allowed to enter without proof that they are residents. Before we used to say the displacement, if it happens to the 28 homes at the same day or at the same time, this will be a war crime. But to be honest, what we've lived and what we're still living since the beginning, let's say, of May is a war crime. Sparkling or spreading chemical sewage water on people that stink on our skin for 3 days minimum, that's a war crime and that's illegal. Attacking, invading houses only to scare the people, to stop us from speaking, that's also illegal. When we're going to say about something legal, there is nothing legal, especially in our neighborhood, that our neighborhood is in East Jerusalem. And depending on the two sides states or the two-state solution or the Oslo Agreement or the international law, the Israel government has nothing to do in East Jerusalem and they're not supposed to be in our neighborhood. So since then, I'm speaking about 20 days ago. Since 20 days ago, the neighborhood is closed. We're not allowed to enter or to come back. We need a proof and we need a good excuse. That's the second point. The third point I really wanted to speak about, and when we speak, what do we want? What are we asking people to do and how are we asking people to support us? We're not asking, we know, we're young adults speaking with people, with individuals. So we're just asking people to help us spread the hashtag. It really helped us to reach the worldwide. Our problem now is not only us. Before, since 1972, the problem used to be on individuals, and that's so unfair. This conflict, the land ownership issue, is supposed to be between the Israeli government, the Jordanian government, and the United Nations, the UNRWA. It is not supposed to be on us as individuals, as a human being. This, I believe, problem is way bigger than us, and it is really unfair to put it on us as individuals. We are asking the people to help us and to put pressure to take this case, this court case, to the criminal justice court, because, as I said, it's agreements between countries or governments. It wasn't between us as a human who bought land and didn't, or sold it or didn't sell it. It is between the government, and we believe that the Israeli government, they have to, it is not up to them, they have to respect the Jordanian agreements, which was before them occupying East Jerusalem. I'll just make the last comment. My neighbor spoke about the two journalists who they took from the neighborhood 5 days ago. Their court was today, and unfortunately, they postponed it till tomorrow. Their crime, depending on what do they say, because as you know, we live under the Israeli occupation, so unfortunately, the judges and the courts and everything is under the Israeli law, and honestly, we don't trust it. We can't go and stand in front of settlers and Israeli policemen when the judge is a settler, him or herself. So those two journalists, their court was postponed till tomorrow. And their crime, as I said, is attacking and beating the policemen. So we're praying for them, tomorrow. Honestly, we don't know what will happen with them. Although we have videos, we have proofs that they were standing. They didn't attack anyone. They attacked them. And the lawyers asked already to show those videos tomorrow in the court. So hopefully tomorrow we'll hear good news about them. As I said, we are the young adults. We only used what do we have in our hands. We only try to protect our homes, our land. We've been living in, we're the third generation, by the way, in this living in the neighborhood by us in very simple ways. We're just speaking, and that's it. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm so sorry. We had some issues with the muting. So let's proceed with our next speaker. Our next speaker is Reem Al-Hithani from Gaza. Reem is an English literature student and a writer at We Are Not a Number, and she'll give us updates from Gaza. Reem, are you here? I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. She's having some trouble with her audio. Just a minute, please.
Hi everybody, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm sorry for Okay. I'm sorry for what happened just now. So
Nakba. That Nakba is still going on, and we shouldn't be. What happened in Sheikh Jarrah, the escalation of events, led the Israeli occupation um, to change their compass into Al-Aqsa Mosque, so that they repel the demonstrators as they think. But of course, the Palestinian youth couldn't be silent, and of course they have to defend their holiest site. And we all know that it is a holy site, not only for Palestinians, but for all Muslims around the world. So imagine your holiest site being invaded and stormed with stun grenades and the most awful and illegal weapons being used against you in such holy site. So as a form of self-defense, the resistance in Gaza, and it has the right to went through 11 days of continuous aggression. Israel launched more than 1,810 raids, along with artillery, shelling, both ground and ground. As you all know, that Gaza, densely populated cities in the world, with more than 2 million people living in there. This aggression resulted in the killing of 247 Palestinians, as Reem mentioned, that 66 were children, 39 were women, 17 elderlies, and more than 1,910 different injuries, including those extremely dangerous ones. And you have to know that Gaza is a siege city, and it has a limited import of medical aid. And now that hospitals had been destroyed, even the roads leading to the hospitals, the infrastructure of the city itself is completely demolished. And it would require a lot of time and effort, of course, and to reconstruct the city. I would like to highlight a point, which is what this aggression resulted in, which is the tragedy of displacement. As I said, this is a continuation of Nakba. So 120,000 people, Palestinians, citizens from Gaza, were forced due to the aggression to leave their homes, either to like the UNRWA shelters, schools, where they lack the basic life needs, such as clean water, the education and everything doesn't mean that they're taking shelter, that they're being taken care of. And 70,000 of them are having shelter in their relatives' houses. This tragedy of displacement, other than the psychological effects, according to Save the Children organization, 95% of Gaza's children suffer from And this ceasefire came to, stop the aggression on Gaza and, stop, the events happening at Sheikh Jarrah, the evictions, and the invasion of Al-Aqsa Mosque. But a day after the ceasefire, they stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque, and they have caused injuries, and they've also killed some Palestinians. This is a day after the ceasefire. So what ceasefire are you talking about? If they still continue in their crimes. So yeah, that's what I want to mention, that ceasefire doesn't mean that it's the end. Gaza is healing, but every other part in Palestine is still bleeding. And we shall resist till the last breath. And one thing I also want to mention, that how can we help? First, we can help by boycotting. Boycotting has a huge impact on Israel's economy. And you can check the BDS movement website, what you can boycott, and it is very, very, very effective. And please don't be silent. Please keep on raising awareness. Our voices should be heard. What's happening in Sheikh Jarrah is about to happen, or it's already happening in other neighborhoods. But they're just taking their time, bit by bit, neighborhood by neighborhood. Now it's still one neighborhood. So please raise awareness. And that's all I want to mention. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Hiba. That was really informative. Thank you so much, Hiba. That was really informative. Wali Rahmani is a social media personality and a social and political activist. He has very kindly helped us in amplifying the voices of Palestinians through his platform. I now request him to conclude this webinar.
Hello, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so hello and assalamu alaikum to everybody who's watching this webinar right now. Firstly, big thank you to Indo-Pal Friendship Forum and Youth for Al-Quds India for allowing me to give a concluding speech for this webinar. Secondly, this webinar is being streamed live on my Facebook page. India-Palestine relationship. Am I an expert on Israel-Palestine issue? And do I have to be an expert on Israel-Palestine issue to speak on this issue? I firmly believe that my human capacity is sufficient enough for me to speak against the aggression and the illegal occupation of the Israeli forces. I firmly believe that my human capacity is sufficient enough for me to speak against the oppressors and the perpetrators of war crimes and against the oppressors and perpetrators of crime against humanity. And the place where I am right now, I am an Indian, and there is a huge trend over here in India to perceive and to see Indian Muslims who speak against Israelis and Zionists as anti-Jewish, anti-Judaism, and anti-Semitic. So let me take this opportunity to firstly clear out one thing, that we Muslims, we've never been anti-Jewish and in the history, and we still are not anti-Jewish or anti-Semitic. Rather, if you take the history, and I give an open challenge, I throw an open challenge to anybody who's watching this webinar right now, to prove it to me from the historical facts, to prove it to me in history, a single instance where Muslims have systematically oppressed Jews, or Muslims have systematically killed Jews. I bet you on this that not a single instance you would be able to show it to me. Rather, on the contrary, the historical facts are such that for the first time when Muslims took over Al-Aqsa and took over the Al-Quds, took over Jerusalem, it was during the time of Khalifa Umar Raziallah. And during that time, when Umar Raziallah took Jerusalem for the first time, when he conquered Jerusalem for the first time, history has recorded this fact that he took over Jerusalem without even spilling a Muslims took over Al-Aqsa and took over the Al-Quds, took over Jerusalem. It was during the time of Khalifa Umar Raziallah. And during that time, when Umar Raziallah took Jerusalem for the first time, when he conquered Jerusalem for the first time, history has recorded this fact that he took over Jerusalem without even spilling a drop of blood. And let me narrate you the instance when he went to Jerusalem and he took over Jerusalem, and when the Jews and the Christians happily gave Jerusalem in his hand and said that we want to work under the able leadership of you, under the able leadership of Muslims. And these are not, vague things. These are facts. These are historical facts. And when Khalifa Umar Raziallahu Ta'ala, when he was in Jerusalem, it was the time for prayer. So the Christian priest said, you can come to the church and you can pray. And look at the far-sightedness of Khalifa Umar. He said, if I pray in this church today, and when I am not here, tomorrow Muslims will claim that this church belongs to the Muslims because our Khalifa had prayed over here. He stepped out of the church and he prayed. And the place where he prayed, exactly in that place, is Masjid Umar today. So look at the far-sightedness of this man, the first man who had conquered, who had taken over Jerusalem. He did not want the Muslims and the Christian to clash after he was gone. And the So where in history can you show me that the Muslims have persecuted, where the Muslims have oppressed Jews? On the contrary, when Jews were being killed in Holocaust, when the Jews were being killed across Europe, it was Sultan Mahmud of Morocco. It was Sultan Mahmud of Morocco, the king of Sultan Muhammad, the king of Morocco then. When Morocco came under the German rule and the German Nazis wanted to, impose anti-Semitic laws in Morocco, it was Sultan Muhammad who said that the Muslims and the Christians and the Jews are people of the book. And he saved the Jews who were staying in Morocco. History has recorded the fact that it was Bosnian Muslims who have sacrificed their lives, who have risked their lives, and who have saved the Jewish from the anti-Semitic propaganda, from the anti-Semitic Holocaust. History has recorded the fact that it was the Grand Mosque of Paris, the Jama Masjid of Paris, which gave refuge to more than 1,700 Jewish people and saved them from the Holocaust and saved them from getting killed. More than 1,700 Jewish people took refuge and went into hiding in the underground compound of the Grand Mosque of Paris. So this is the history of Muslims. Propaganda from the anti-Semitic Holocaust. History has recorded the fact that it was the Grand Mosque of Paris, the Jama Masjid of Paris, which gave refuge to more than 1,700 Jewish people and saved them from the Holocaust and saved them from getting killed. More than 1,700 Jewish people took refuge and went into hiding in the underground compound of the Grand Mosque of Paris. So this is the history of Muslims. History has recorded the fact that Iran gave refuge to the Jewish and the Polish refugees of the Holocaust. So this is the history of Muslims. Not a single incident in the history where you can Arabs, they have thrown in more than 3 lakh Arab Palestinians into. And what comes in as a shock to me, as a student of history, as a student of international relations, what comes in as a shock to me is that the same Jews who were persecuted, who were killed in a Holocaust just a few years back, go on to colonize Muslims? So it just comes in as a shock to me. And for my viewers who are watching me, who are listening to me right now, to make you understand this in a better way, what is happening right now in Palestine is not just colonialism. What happened with us in India was colonialism, where Britishers, where a handful of Britishers came to India, they colonized us, they ruled over us, they took our minerals, they took our resources, they went back to England and they poured it in England. But what is happening in Palestine, and what the Israelis are doing with Palestine is not just colonialism, it is settler colonialism. Now, what is settler colonialism? Settler colonialism is a kind of colonialism where the colonial forces seek to replace the original population with a new set of society and a new set of settlers. Now, to simplify that for you, imagine you have given your house on rent to somebody. You have given a room to somebody. You've got a 4-bedroom house, and out of that 4-bedroom, you give your house to rent on somebody. Just one room to rent on somebody, to somebody. And that somebody comes to your house and stays in your house and starts ruling you. And he lets you stay in your house. That is colonialism. Now, what is settler colonialism? If that very same person expels you from your house and calls his other 4 friends, and his 4 friends start living in your house and you become homeless, that is settler colonialism. Now, an interesting figure of settler colonialism, to explain this settler colonialism, an interesting figure is that in 1915, there were just 60,000 Jewish in Palestine, just 60,000 Jewish in Palestine. And by the year 1948, within a span of 30 years, this number rose from 60,000 to now, when there are a handful of Indians who trend on Twitter, who trend on Facebook by saying India stands with Israel, how can any India support Israel? How can any Indian, for a matter of fact, support Israel? When we ourselves have been fighting, have fought, our forefathers have fought against the British colonialism for years. We have our own history of fighting against colonialism. The year we got freedom in 1947, then the next year, 1948, Palestine became colonized. Fathers have fought just 1 year after that. Colonialism for years. And I mean, how we have our own history of fighting against colonialism. The year we got freedom in 1947, then the next year, 1948, Palestine became colonized. Just 1 year after that. And I mean, how can Indians support Israel when Israel is colonizing it? And okay, so India has a long history of supporting the Palestinian cause. You know, Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation, for Indians who do not know, and these handful Indians who in India we call bhakts, I mean blind followers of like in Israel, in Palestine, you've got Zionism. In India, we've got Hindutva. The two forces work together and their ideologies are exactly the same in India. So Mahatma Gandhi, the father of our nation, he said, Palestine belongs to extent is India trying to support the Palestinian cause. And on 16th May, the recent event that proves that India stands with Palestine, on 16th May 2021, the Indian ambassador to the UN Security Council, he went on to say that we stand with the just Palestinian cause. He ended his entire speech by saying that we stand with the just Palestinian cause. So people staying abroad, they must be thinking when India starts trending, when a handful number of people who start trending from India, that India stands with Palestine, India stands with Israel, they must be thinking that there's a vast population, a major population of the Indians who support Israel, which is absolutely wrong. There's just a handful number of people who are followers of an ideology called Hindutva. And this ideology, and it is interesting, and I'm going to expose them right now in this video today, in this webinar today. So the followers of Hindutva today claim to be the champions of the human rights and claim to be the protectors of Jews and supporters of Jews. but they have little idea on to say that we stand with the just. So the followers of Hindutva today claim to be the champions of the human rights and claim to be the protectors of Jews and supporters of Jews. But they have little idea what their forefathers have done against the Jews. So the founder of the entire ideology, like Theodor Herzl is the founder of Zionism, in the same way Savarkar, Golwalkar, and Hedgewar, these three people were the founders of Hindutva. So Golwalkar and Savarkar were hardcore supporters and admirers of Hitler. In fact, Golwalkar went on to say that we should learn from Hitler how Hitler, and if you give me an opportunity, I would like to read out what exactly he said. He said, to keep up the purity of the nation and its culture, Germany shocked the world by purging the country of its Semitic race, the Jewish nationals. And he further said, Germany has also shown us how impossible it is for races and cultures having difference in going roots to be assimilated and united as one whole. A good lesson for Hindustan to learn and profit by. This is what he said against Jews. And Savarkar, the person who coined the Hindutva term, and the people who follow the Hindutva ideology today, they say that we support Israel. Look what your father had said. I mean, what your forefather, what the founder of the Hindutva said. He said in 1931, 21st session of the Hindu Mahasabha, he said that the Indian Muslims the Indian Muslims are more inclined to identify themselves with Muslims outside India. In the same manner, the Jews in the Germany. And he further said the very fact that Germany or Italy has so wonderfully recovered and grown so powerful as never before at the touch of the Nazi or the fascist magical wand is enough to prove that those political isms were the most congenial tonic for their health. So he's calling Nazi and the fascist regime and their politicalism the most congenial tonic for their health. And these Hindutva Modi supporters and the Hindutva supporters in India do not realize that their forefathers were supporters of Germany, were supporters of Hitler, were supporters of Nazi. So in India today, we stand in solidarity with the Palestinian cause. And in future also, we will stand, inshallah, with the Palestinian cause. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was a really, really powerful speech. I hope you all learned from it. So it is time for the Q&A session. One of our moderators, Khadija, will now convey the questions to our speakers, and they can choose to speak or answer whichever the questions they prefer.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. We'll be starting the question answer session now. We have a question. We have a question on YouTube. How are some Palestinians allowed entry into Gaza and through the checkpoints, and some Palestinians are not? Would any speaker like to answer this question?
It's different from one person to another, as the country itself, the land itself, half of it, or not half of it, let's say, part of it is under the Israeli occupation, and part of it is the West Bank, which is, as they claim, the Palestinian territories. The problem or the difference between it in that you have part of the Palestinians who are living in East Jerusalem. So the Palestinian territories is divided to three, let's say, different categories. One is East Jerusalemites with Israel residency, not a citizenship, who can move and go back to the West Bank with the Israeli ID that is saying that they live in Jerusalem, not not in Israel, they are not citizens. The second part, or the second category, is West Bankers who are living in the Palestinian territory in the West Bank under the Palestinian government. Those people, they are not allowed to get in East Jerusalem or move freely to East Jerusalem or to our occupied land as Palestinians that is Israel, and they need specific permits to cross checkpoints. And the third category is Gaza people, who, as you all know, Gaza people, they are not allowed to go out of Gaza, as the Israelis have been closing Gaza for more than 15 years. So that's the three major categories, and definitely Shifa or the other Palestinians can add about it. The thing in only East Jerusalemites who are living in East Jerusalem, Palestinians without the citizenship, can cross the checkpoint freely, as they are Palestinians living out of the checkpoint. The West Bankers and Gaza people, they are not allowed to move freely in the country. Gaza people, definitely, as I said, who also the Gaza speaker can speak about it, they are not allowed to leave Gaza at all.
Yes, as being from Gaza, if you want to leave the city, we have to, of course, it's too much hassle, and we go through the Egyptian borders, the Egyptian airport, as we don't have an airport, and it's a lot of tribulation. Like some people stay at the Egyptian airport for a month, and it's so freezing there, and in the airport, and people go through a lot of trouble just to leave the city. That's if they don't get rejected and they return back. And about the other part of Palestine and Jerusalem, they go through the Jordanian, Jordanian side.
Actually, Palestinian people, they are living like there's checkpoints not only on the land. For Palestinians, checkpoints is everywhere, like illegal checkpoints. Imagine that you are living in a city and you cannot go to another city, although it's in the West Bank, it's under the Palestinian like government. They can go to Al-Quds, which has the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So, which make Israel can control Al-Quds or other like cities in West Bank very easily, because Palestinian people have no access to such cities. Gaza is actually living under siege since almost 2005. It's an open air prison. People in Gaza can't go to the occupied cities in Palestine. They can't go to West Bank. The only way to go out is to go to Egypt. On or even to move inside Palestine. Any more questions, yeah, Khadija?
Yeah. So we
For
have
Palestinian people in West Bank, when they want to go out, they have to go to Jordan.
No, please continue.
Yes, Khadija. Yeah, so people in West Bank, if they want to go out from Palestine, they have to go to a bridge that is from Palestine to Jordan. This bridge, actually, in a normal time, it takes them for like half an hour to pass this bridge. But because of the Israeli soldiers and because of the occupation, sometimes it took them more than 6 hours to pass by this bridge. And there's two lines. There's one line specifically for Arabs and Palestinians where they treat them very bad, where you can, like, when you are walking on this bridge on the checkpoints, the weapon is right to your face, because they think if you just move, or if you just like put your hands in your pockets, then you are going to kill one of them. So this bridge is actually, some people mention it as the death bridge, where you cannot move freely, where it's very hot, where you have to take more than 6 hours to pass this bridge just to go to Jordan. Then you can go outside, like to travel or for any other purposes. And we have one line for Palestinian and Arabs, which is where they treat them very bad, and one line for tourists, where they can like pass by very easily, or for some settlers where they have no checkpoints. They move and they go, but like as I mentioned, for like just half an hour. So you need to know that Palestine is. They can now say it's like there is a Palestinian state, but officially, what a state that has no airport? What can we call this states? Where is that states where their people cannot move normally, cannot travel normally, cannot have medicine normally? So we use this checkpoints as a word to describe our whole life in Palestine, not only moving from city to another, but it's lifestyle. We are living all our life in checkpoints. Yes, Khadija.
Okay, so we have another question on Zoom by Adnan. Does the financial aid from countries like Qatar or donations, do they actually reach the people in Palestine?
For the AIDS, it actually has a lot of process. It must go first to the Palestinian Authority, then it can go to Gaza. Normally, for the statistics, it's gone to Palestinian people for medication, for building, or for rebuilding their houses in Gaza. When we are talking for statistics and for what is officially there, yes, it is going to Palestinian people. There is actually one question on Zoom was talking about UN. For UN, I feel that UN actually failed to help Palestinians. UN, when it comes to humanitarian part, they are helping a lot of people. But the first thing they do that hit Palestinian people was the 181 resolution, which gave the Israel the right to have their own state, although without considering that they are undemocratical government, they are killing, they are ethnic cleansing Palestinian, but regarding all this, they give them the right to have their own state, so they fail at some part to help Palestinian people. When it comes to humanitarian aids, when it comes to, say, save the children, they are doing this as if like any normal or other humanitarian organization. And that's all what did actually UN did. There is one argument that was always there for those Palestinian refugees. UN gave us this, or UN like signed with some countries like Syria and Lebanon and Jordan, that they have to give Palestinian refugees a travel document. It's like the passport, but it's actually not officially passport. It has no ID number and no ID card. It's only a travel document where you can live like in Syria or Lebanon or Jordan, very easy with it. But when it comes to travel, it's very hard to travel, and maybe you cannot have visa for only like 1 month or 20 days in some countries, imagine. So they signed these agreements with these countries, and some were asking them, if you are fighting for Palestinian refugees to go back to Palestine, why don't you talk to Israeli state to give them the right to go to their land and to live under the control of Israel, as if there is a lot of Palestinians living there, and they are still fighting for their freedom. And until now, nobody actually discussed such issue in official way. And as I mentioned, we have almost 6 million refugees outside of Palestine. Yes, Khadija.
There's another question via YouTube. What do the people of Palestine or Gaza think about the think about the political stance of the Muslim nations?
For now, Hiba, do you want to go ahead, Hiba or Rima? I don't want to answer all questions.
That's fine, you can go on.
Okay. Yeah, for now, actually, Palestinians nowadays, they are very happy. First of all, as you can see, people from all around the world nowadays, they are standing with Palestine because of social media campaigns. Because people in Sheikh Jarrah, they did spread awareness about what's going on there. They did spread awareness that we are until now facing the illegal settlement, although the Israel had signed, or the UN and Jordan had signed the agreement, Geneva Agreement, that Israel is not allowed to have control over the East Jerusalem, but Israel did everything and actually didn't take, didn't have anything to do with such agreement, and they have always legal settlements. So Palestinian nowadays, they could manage to tell the world what's going on, and they are very happy because we do care about people, what they are doing for us. We don't always deny on governments, okay? We care about people. People like me, you, they can push their governments, they can push their NGOs, they can pressure them that we stand with this cause, so the government by default will have and will must stand with the cause that their people standing with it. So nowadays, Palestinian people, they are really putting a lot of hope in the world because they believe that they can be heard now because of social media campaigns and because of what we all see, like in all the world, in America, Denmark, Europe, Canada, Arab world, they all stand with Palestinian people. People are standing with Palestinian people, which make the government by default stand with this cause because they cannot always stand against what their own people want. Nasiba. احكي فينا نسمعك.
Okay. I'd like to mention that the governments don't really stand. We have seen normalizations and all what we see in this current situation. But as Shifa mentioned, due to the pressure from the media and the people of countries themselves, so that what creates pressure for them to speak up. It's never kind of sympathy or something towards the people. Never. So I want to add.
It's actually very easy. I believe we are all human beings that stand for freedom, for liberty, for dignity, for human rights. When you just look logically for what's going on in Palestine, when you just observe the very normal lifestyle that Palestinians are facing without any political agreement, without reading anything about Palestine history and about Israel history, you can understand that there is something wrong going on there. You can understand that how come anyone could come and tell you go out from your house. How could you imagine that people in Gaza, over than 2 million people they are living under siege. They cannot work normally, they cannot live normally. So understand when people know the real image, and that's why these days are very important and we need to use it, and we need always to, as Hiba mentioned before, to write, to post, to hashtag, because people now, they are seeing the real people who are facing the problem. They are talking by their own self, by their tongue. They are not waiting for news agencies, for media agencies to come and take pictures and videos about what's going on. They are using their phones to capture what is really happening there. So what is, it's clear enough, I think, for anyone to stand with it. By default, those governments who want to stand for their own people, they will stand with Palestinian. And because of this, we have hope in governments, Muslims, Europe's, America. We hope like Europe's and America, and we have hope in people themselves.
May I move on to the next question?
Yeah, what's the next question?
So there's a question from Amna Manan on Zoom. Can you please explain about the Oslo Accords? May I move on to the next question?
Yeah, what's the next question?
So there's a question from Amna Manan on Zoom. Can you please explain about the Oslo Accords?
Okay. Oslo Accord was a peace agreement that the Prime Minister of Palestine, Yasser Arafat, has signed why he did sign such agreement? Because Israel, as I mentioned, 181 resolution from UN was already there. Israel was already taking over 60% of Palestinian land. So they decided now to have a Palestinian Authority who will control West Bank.
Can you please explain about the Oslo Accords?
Okay. Oslo Accord was a peace Palestinian authority and control. But unfortunately, as what was signed in the Oslo Agreement, and they are officially doing illegal things, and no one is punishing them. No one is telling them why you're not standing to what was written in the Oslo Agreement. Anything else?
What else want to add to this? Any other speaker? If not, then we'll move on to the next question. There are actually. Does anyone want to answer this?
What
Okay,
question?
so there's another question. There's what is the aid or stance that will help Palestine maintain its ground right now, and how exactly can the world make that happen for them?
Anyone would like to answer? Okay, so yes, Hiba.
No, you may go on.
Okay, so actually, people now are making campaigns and donations, if I understand the question clearly, for Palestine, for Gaza especially, because what happened in Gaza, like they destroyed almost half of the city. I think Kuwait and some other countries, they are trying to have people who will go to Gaza and who will who will manage the donation to go directly to people who were influenced or who were like attacked by Israeli airstrikes, and they will be there to make sure that this money will go for the right people to rebuild Gaza again. So it's easy. I think if you now Google, or I can give you some links if you want to donate. There's a lot of NGOs and organizations who are actually dealing with donations. Anything else? If anyone wants me to
finally there is a question. It's about the two-state solution.
Yes.
They're asking if the two-state solution is what the people of Palestine want and strive for.
That's a very good question. Actually, I like it a lot. Palestinian people are asking for justice. If two-state solution will bring us justice, we are okay with it. If it will not bring us justice, of course, we are not okay with it. Because every human being are seeking justice, are seeking to live free in their land or in any land. So if two-state solution will bring us justice, then we will accept it. If it will not, definitely no one will accept it. Actually, two-state solution was marketed by Israel, and now if you could ask them, do you accept two-state solution? They will say no. Imagine, they are the one who suggested such a solution, and they are the one who are saying that we don't accept it. So I believe we should find another solution.
Yeah. I just wanted to highlight this, that you should ask Israelis themselves, do you agree on the state solution? Because their actions are saying the opposite. They're saying something, they're proposing something, but they're doing the opposite thing. With their
so how can
Palestinians
do accept two-state solution with a state that don't want two-state solution? Then I'm asking which state?
Right.
Okay, Danny, I'm gonna provide some names and NGOs, but you can like contact me on my Insta account or Friends of Palestine. Yes, Khadija, any more questions?
I guess we can take one last question. It's by Ijaz Ahmed on Zoom. War is going on for a long time, and war is not a solution for this. I am asking, what is your youth of Palestinian? Like, what is the future plan of the youth of the Palestinians as technological education to come out from this complex situation?
Thank you for this question, Ajaz. This is a very interesting question. I believe nowadays Palestinian youth are more like they are observing more what's going on. They are standing more with their issue. What we have to do, those Palestinians who cannot go back to Palestine, like me, and those who are living there, they are trying their best. First of all, to learn, to seek knowledge, to understand international law, so they can let the people plus to spread awareness to do such interviews or such meetings. It's actually have or has a big or a huge impact. Maybe people will say there is no serious action. This is a serious action because we are talking about 72 years of occupation. Of course, it's not easy to liberate Palestine in 2 or 1 year. Nowadays, what is going on now, I believe it is the result. It is the result of those who were working on Palestinian issue, who were spreading awareness on Palestinian issue. What is going on now, these meetings and the social media campaigns and all people understanding what's going on in Palestine, it's the result of learning and spreading and years of learning and spreading awareness. We can say that we achieved. This is the first step, and we are trying our best to achieve more. How to achieve more? It is to have people from all around the world believing in our cause, going to their governments, their NGOs, pressuring on their governments to have solution on what's going on, and also for Palestinian youth to always know their issue, to be always related to their issue because it's not a religion issue, it's a human rights issue, and they must stand with it. Every human being, as I mentioned, who stand with the human rights must stand with the Palestinian issue. So I believe what we are doing now, or what we are seeing now in the world, it's the first step, it's the result of people who were actually working on Palestinian cause. And our turn and your turn is to keep reading, keep learning, try to push and pressure NGOs, those who are maybe their dream or their goal is to be in their country's government. They must carry the Palestinian issue with them, to put it on the ground in the government, to really like talk about it and to search or to think about solutions for such thing. If you have anything to add, like Hiba or Suma, yes, please, Friends of Palestine. I hope I answered well. I hope you got my points. And I really hope that this meeting or people who are here in the meeting or in Facebook or in YouTube will really carry or will really have responsibility to talk about what's going on to Palestine, to stand with the Palestinian people as they are seeing what's going on the real story. Thank you, Khadija.
Right. And
Answering questions so well. So you should take over now.
Hiba, you were saying something?
sorry,
Yes, Hiba.
Shiva, were you saying something? Please continue.
Oh yeah, about the education and everything. I do agree with Shiva, and I would like to say that even people inside Gaza itself, or inside Palestine in general, but what I've seen in Gaza, I've been away from the city for 7 years now, and it has gone through, like, it has developed through the years, and now I can see that they're launching campaigns and they're working on projects to deliver their voices, but they want they want the world to hear them. So I would like to say, go and search for these young projects to help them out, to raise their voices, to deliver it to the whole world, because education is there in Gaza. People love education. People are educated. They seek knowledge, but they want their voices to be heard. So be the ears for them.
There's just one comment I want to end it because I saw a lot of like mentioning what is the final action. As I mentioned, there is no final action. It's a step by step. It's actions that we will see the result. Israel has a big support. We have to understand this. So it's not easy to stand in front of them and to fight. It's not that easy. We, as Palestinians, we are trying our best to have support like those the Israeli occupation have, so we can stand in front of Israel and can end this Zionism and this occupation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you to all our speakers for answering the questions so well. I'm sure if you guys have any other questions, maybe we can forward them later. But for now, this is it. Alhamdulillah, we have reached the end of this webinar. But I would also like to add that we had an issue with going live on Facebook. We tried at least 14, 15 times to, we had to restart at least 14, 15 times. And it doesn't seem to be a technical issue. It seems that we were being taken down. So
yes, exactly. It's not a technical issue. This is one thing that we are facing now. It's an internet war. It's a media war now, not a weapon war.
Censorship.
Exactly. I'm really sorry to all our viewers on Facebook who had any inconvenience. I mean, I know you guys have had inconvenience, but inshallah we'll share the recording of the video with you soon, so you can rewatch or watch the parts that you missed. Further, I would also sincerely like to thank our brother Wali Rahmani, who has once again used his platform to spread truth and stand for justice. This was an amazing learning opportunity for all of us, and I hope all of us gained a lot of insight from it. I sincerely thank especially our speakers and our guests and our viewers who joined us and helped us make this event a success. From now on, let's be even more enthusiastic about amplifying the voices of our Palestinian brothers and sisters. And alhamdulillah, that is all.
Thank you so much for this great opportunity. It's actually our pleasure. We're really happy that we could reach you and we could sit with people from different countries to know what's going on exactly in Palestine. You were great, Umniya, not us.
Alhamdulillah. So send any other questions on our Instagram page or Youth for Outputs. We'll share it on, we've already shared it, the details of the event, and we'll further answer any other questions that you guys have, or friends of Palestine, as Shifa said. That is all. I don't think we have anything left, so we can all leave now, inshallah.
Thanks so much.